I'm Adam. For those of you that don't know me, I've been in recruiting since 1999. I am the founder of Poetry. I've been building technology companies for about the last 10 years. I was a co-founder of a business called Candidate ID, which is now part of iCIMS CXM. And before that, I founded a talent sourcing business called Social Media Search, which we sold to a London listed executive search firm called Norman Broadbent PLC. I live in Scotland. And Alicia, give us a quick intro to you.
Sure. Hi, it's Alicia O'Brien. I'm coming to you from Tampa, Florida. I am with Wilson, an integrated talent solutions provider. I've been with Wilson for about 15 years in the recruitment outsourcing space. And in the last 5 to 10 years, I've gotten to spend a lot of time working with a variety of different tech partners to understand how they can really influence the landscape of this crazy world of recruiting that we all find ourselves in. Happy to be here.
Great. Stephen?
Yeah, my name's Stephen McGrath. I am product experience at Poetry. That essentially just means that I listen to customers and people like Alicia and other people in the industry about what exactly our product needs to entail and try and make that happen. If you want to know a bit about my career, I was a recruiter until about 6 years ago or 5 years ago, and then just follow Adam's career from that point, and I've just tagged along for the ride. And I've also worked with Alicia for the last 5 years, basically. So it's a real family group today, it feels like.
Right. Why do you always skip the most exciting bits? Right, I'm just going to say it.
They're not appropriate.
They are. Stephen was a cage fighter with who won 30 fights, lost 2 sadly, but won 30.
Yeah.
And he's also in a band. He fell off a cliff, and he's half metal.
Well, we could do a webinar of the life of Stephen McGrath some other time. So that's okay. Fine.
That's the follow-up to this one.
Yeah, that's part 2. Okay, so we're going to talk today a little bit about the complexity of the recruiter role, about hiring enablement, about how we need to help our recruiters to be more productive and successful by providing them with all the things that they need. I'm going to share my screen and do a bit of a demo on Poetry and explain how we are addressing all of those challenges. And then we're going to cover our recently announced partnership between Poetry and Wilson and talk a bit about that and what it means for customers and prospective customers for both of our organizations. So I'm just going to do a quick intro to how we got to this subject. When a number of years ago, I became very aware that salespeople get really well served by technologies to give them all of the content and the assets and the intel and the calculators and the scripts and the things that they need to do their job, right from a cold call through to closing the deal. Okay, and when we think about recruiting, there are some nuances in recruiting. It's not exactly a sales job, but there are a lot of shared overlap in tasks. So I started thinking about what do recruiters need? And they need a lot of the same things. They need market intelligence and talent intelligence and competitor intelligence. And they need sourcing assets like Boolean strings and outreach messaging and recruitment marketing content, such as job adverts, social media posts. They need operational materials like job descriptions, candidate interview questions, and more. So in 2023, I spent 6 months doing focus groups. I set up a YouTube channel called Recruiter Enablement. I interviewed talent acquisition leaders, RPO leaders. Alicia was one of my guests on that. And I deep dived this subject to learn as much as I possibly could. So it was very fascinating. And it's something that is not enough focus is given to. We're often very focused on candidate profiles, on the source aspects of sourcing and assessment, but recruiters do many, many other tasks around that. So I wanted to find out all about it and try and really address this issue. Alicia and some of Alicia's colleagues were part of focus groups and things that I did. And so hand it over to you, like as a leader of many, many recruiters right around the world. what are the things that you want to try and address when we think about enabling them to be more productive?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. It's first of all enabling recruiters or folks on recruitment teams to be more productive, but also to keep a very cohesive experience from a brand perspective for those prospective candidates and then recruiters, as we're talking about, because there are a lot of minute details that are very important, and we expect the teams to do a lot of things just so. And there's a lot to keep track of, not to mention relationships, negotiations, market demands, all the things that are changing in the world that impact recruitment. So if there's a way that we can simplify the parts that are meant to be simple, that are already, kind of set in stone, approved, things of that nature, and serve that up to our recruitment teams, that's a perfect world in my scenario. Granted, there's a lot of other things that impact that, but that's pretty close in my opinion.
Just one other question about that then, because I think your scenario is even more complex than in talent acquisition, because you're representing 50, 100 different brands out in the market. How do you go about ensuring that your teams become your clients? They have to represent that brand.
They do. We're responsible for all of the brand guidelines, the tone and texture of conversations, how we communicate, and then really being an extension of that team. So that way, from a candidate perspective, they really don't know whether they're talking to an employee of that company or of Wilson's, which is intentional because they're meant to be an extension of that brand. But to your point, there's a lot more to keep track of, especially if people are potentially moving between projects or between teams. And it's our duty to our clients to make sure that that brand is properly represented.
So I get the sense that in a lot of talent acquisition teams, because you know many talent acquisition teams and not just your own internal recruiting teams, but I get the sense that many talent acquisition teams give their recruiters an ATS, a LinkedIn account, and then for all the rest of it, they just sort of throw them in at the deep end. Have you seen that?
Yes. And the deep end, here's a picture to visualize in your mind, is probably a SharePoint or a Google Drive that's organized by documents with a date in front of them that we hope is the accurate date. So you ideally use the most recent one and pick a thing, pick an intake guide, pick a screening form, pick a candidate pack template. You're going off of whatever you think was most recently used, but there's not a lot of guidance as far as that's concerned.
And things go out of date really quickly, and we're living in an ever more dynamic and complicated business world.
Yep.
Stephen, tell us a bit about the experience that you've had with, you're responsible for not just our product at Poetry, but you're also responsible for the way that our customers go about using it and monitoring that and helping them to use it and understanding any friction points and things like that. What we've been talking about so far, I mean, what's your experience? Are customers typically well prepared for something like Poetry or for enabling their recruiters?
So that can vary greatly. I think my experience, so first of all, from a personal experience, having worked for a deco before, and then COVID coming along and us being realigned into the RPO kind of section of the business, I had an experience where I worked for one company on a Friday and I worked for a completely different company on a Monday, basically. And trying to get my head around that and understand exactly what I needed to do was quite a challenge. And something like Poetry would have helped immensely with that. Now, from a product point of view and from what we do with customers, it is very clear to see that, first of all, it doesn't matter what stage of the process people are in, we can always help in some way. So we can either help shape it and help it grow. So lots of people don't have a folder with brand assets or a Google Drive that's dated. They might actually have nothing in some instances. So we can help them with our templates and grow that. And others are really, really, almost stressfully aligned as a business with everything that they need to do, with all the boxes that need checked. But the important thing is that it doesn't seem to matter which one of those is happening. We're able to help in some way, just probably very different ways.
Yeah. So I mentioned some of the things that recruiters need to complete their tasks, such as job ads and job descriptions and interview questions and things like that. Alicia, what are some of the other things that spring to your mind as like assets or content that a recruiter needs to complete their work?
Yeah, I mean, a jump start on how to communicate with said candidates. So whether that's social posts, whether that's outreach messaging, or determining which channel might be the best. And then also having a starting point, I feel like, is also a good thing from an interview standpoint. You kind of mentioned that with interview guides, but potentially even further structured around what role. So as opposed to just having a general interview form that's used by the entirety of a large organization, something that's more specific per role. And then that ends up being consistent across the team as opposed to just what's in one recruiter's toolkit.
Yeah, and the other complexity here is if you're working in an international environment, you need things that are appropriate for different regions, different countries, and you also need things that are appropriate for different talent personas. So what's going to be attractive to an engineer might be a bit different to what's attractive to a salesperson, for example. So we need to think about it in slicing and dicing our candidate pools in that way as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and just do a quick introduction to what our solution looks like. So right, okay, so oops, I've accidentally on purpose landed on this Fosway 9 grid, which I was kindly sent this morning at 9 a.m. by Fosway. Really delighted, 2.5 years into having founded our company. And we are, okay, we're bottom left, but we're on the grid. I can't believe there's any other companies that are less than that are 2.5 years old, which are on this. But I just wanted to do a little bit of an accidental brag on here. So if I'm a recruiter at Wilson, let's say I'm recruiting for Wilson, then I log into Poetry and I'm on my desktop, and on the desktop, I've got all these different tiles which take me into the solutions that help me do my job. They're split into kind of phases of recruiting. So preparing for the role, things like here's the intake meeting, here's some research, here's Wilson Analytics with real talent intelligence. I go into my sourcing area. Here's my Boolean strings, conversation guides, social media outreach messaging, and then recruitment marketing. So there's solutions specifically for recruitment marketers, such as brand adverts and landing page copy, for example. And then more mainstream things that the recruiter needs, like job adverts. And then I'm into the recruiting phase. I've got my candidate interview questions and my job descriptions and that type of thing. And then down at the bottom, here's my knowledge base. So where I can build business cases, and I've got my competitor cards and all that type of thing. So 90% of usage, however, is not the individual solutions. It's what we call the playbook. So I go into playbooks, create playbook. This is a talent acquisition role. It is a project manager. It's based at headquarters in Tampa. I click Build All Playbook Assets, and this is going to take approximately 20 seconds to deliver one second, sorry. Talent acquisition, recruitment consultant, Tampa, and then I can select additional locations if I want. So it could be in Tampa or Cleveland or Fresno. Then I can add them in there. And then build all playbook assets. Takes approximately 20 seconds to deliver 17 essential items of talent research, sourcing assets like Boolean strings and outreach messaging, marketing content such as social media posts and job adverts, and operational recruitment materials like the candidate interview question and the job description. Okay, all the assets influence each other. And up here in the settings area, there's a lot of great information in here around templating for things like your personas and your job adverts and your interview guides and all of that type of thing. So this is the central area where the admins will ensure that it's perfect for your business. So here's what's included: the challenges and responsibilities in this role, relevant courses in Tampa, South Florida, relating to this position, the strategic value of the role to Wilson, the potential for this role to become automated now or in the future, recommended skills and qualifications, similar job titles, where to advertise, the characteristics of employers type of role, the companies with the best career opportunities in this location for this type of role, the largest employers in this location for this type of role. If I want to understand what it's like to work at one of these companies, I can just click on the addition sign, and that will automatically build me a competitor card. So it's given some Robert Half versus Wilson. I click generate detailed and generate insights, and this is going to give me a lot more. I'll come back to the competitor cards in a minute. Here's job and industry insights. So this is talking points for conversations with the hiring manager and the candidates, remote work trends, diversity trends, commutable locations around Tampa, where there's hotspots of people that can do the job, turnover and growth rates, and demand v supply. So now I'm ready for my kickoff meeting. This is the structure for how we do kickoff meetings. You can share that with the hiring manager as a questionnaire. They fill it in, and then you could regenerate the playbook with their additional insights. Here's my Boolean string, search Google. It's recruitment consultants and similar in and near Tampa. Social media outreach messaging for in-mails, conversation guide. So this is like an elevator pitch, objection handling responses, brand adverts if you need a campaign, email copy. There's people on the CRM you want to reach out to. Wilson's EVP recontextualized for the talent persona of a recruitment consultant, job advert, landing page copy, talent persona, social media post, job description, skills-based hiring, tells we've got an overlap in the skills needed, and then candidate interview questions. So I can now share that with the hiring manager, select either all the assets or specific assets, candidate interview questions and the talent persona, and then select the individual from the drop-down, click send. They get an email with a link. They can come in and click on that link, brings them into the playbook. They can add in their comments, and then we can iterate in the messaging system. Just back to that competitors area. So in the insights for this, here's compensation, culture, leadership, strengths, and weaknesses of Robert Half as an employer. And then on the left-hand side, the detailed comparison across a variety of career-related factors, such as company culture and values, career growth and development, work-life balance and flexibility, and down at the bottom, like talking points. So we've covered a lot in here. Very deliberately, we've covered a lot because we firmly believe that recruiters have tech fatigue. They don't want to log into one place for this and one place for that. So I hope that's been interesting. And now I'm going to hand back over to Alicia to talk a little bit more about the partnership and tell us a bit more about Wilson.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love every time we have the opportunity to look at all of the different resources that are available just in one place on one screen, because that's really the beauty of why we decided to partner with Poetry. Obviously, there's a longstanding relationship between our people at our organizations, which we've talked about. But if we think about really what's going to change the game for recruiters, there's a lot out there. There's a lot of noise within the ecosphere of HR tech right now. And what I love about Poetry as it relates to how we service our clients is we have white glove expectations, and this enables us to provide white glove service very quickly. So as an example, if we were to take a new client and and we have a new recruiter, we enable them with their poetry solution, and they're able to get up to speed even that much more quickly on the search that they're doing, even if they just started on a new project yesterday. As we talked about before, it takes time to locate all of the resources, ensure that they're the right ones, educate yourself on what you're looking at. But there's so many different ways to cut down time. And I don't even think I've heard you say the stat today, Adam. 2 hours that it can cut down from somebody's time and productivity on a daily basis. And we've done the time and motion studies, and it's true. And we've been able to build either more capacity into our team or really let them spend time with their hiring managers, with their candidates where they should be spending time, as opposed to locating the latest benefit guide from May of 2026, ultimately. So that's the why for the partnership. And then if I think about where we're moving as an organization, we're looking to be tech enabled, but again, also putting AI in places where it makes sense, where it's the right location and the process. And this is quite frankly a no-brainer, in my opinion, of ways to, again, I use the phrase serve up information quite frequently for our teams. And that's exactly what this does for them to be successful. So that was a mouthful, but I get excited when I talk about it.
No, it's great. Stephen, you're working with customers every day. There's one major international retailer in particular that I'm thinking about. They've had some really great benefits from coming aboard. Do you want to just give us a bit of a summary of what they've achieved?
Yeah, absolutely. And for all different teams, it will be different things within an organization, which is good. Different specialties have different things that they need. So sourcing teams using advanced Boolean to surface candidates in obscure locations that they've not been able to do before. Quickly reach out to those people that feels personalized as well. So that's, a good step for kind of sourcing. Research, not only for this customer, but also pretty much every customer, is a massive thing. So in a world where solutions that are kind of like doing those things really to the best of their ability are getting more and more expensive, or increasingly expensive, the ability for recruiters to ask and have answers to questions that they need within seconds is becoming kind of invaluable for them. And then last but not least, it results in bums on seats, people starting jobs on Monday mornings and getting interviews and things like that. And that's probably like, people putting that together feels like it might be a bit of a dotted line, because we're not doing the AI sourcing or the AI interviewing or the screening of, we're doing all the prep work before. But if you do that effectively, that's how you get the job done. Right, like that's how it happens. So being able to do that in a really compliant, context-driven way that is really important and on brand for you provides a good recruiter experience, but ultimately it also provides a good candidate experience, which results in the bum on the seat on the Monday morning. So yeah.
Do you know, Alicia, thank you for prompting me on the 2-hour time saving every day that recruiters are generating from using poetry. That was one of the core things that messages until probably this year. And actually what we realized though was, yes, customers like that, but they're definitely more so buying poetry for the ability to create more consistent go-to-market messaging, ensure that people are on brand, right first time content, they're not going rogue on things, they're not using shadow AI, and the whole compliance kind of aspects of it.
Yeah, it was interesting because I find that we're still, as a global talent acquisition team, trying to figure out what the right metrics are to show ROI within the use of AI in recruitment. And this is one that I've still been able to go back to. I mean, I know we've talked about it for over a year. It still holds true while still allowing the other things to happen, which that was the other piece of my argument is I oversee marketing and brand for our organization now. So I would be the one to get the emails or the communications of why does something like this look this way? Yeah, I rarely get those anymore, which is fantastic. Because because we're making it easier for folks to use the right assets.
Great. Alicia, one last thing before we finish. For anybody that doesn't know what Wilson is, we've talked a lot about poetry. Let's just talk quickly about Wilson as well. Give us some of the stats, like where in the world do you work, what types of companies do you work with, what types of industries do you work in, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So global organization, large footprints in the Americas and LATAM, in Africa and EMEA, little bits and pieces in APAC as well, depending on the region and the regulations there. But as far as our solutions are concerned, really, when we think about our bread and butter, it's helping organizations that realize that they have a hiring problem. They're not exactly sure what it is, and they need help, A, figuring out how to solve what their overall issue is, and B, putting actionable plans into place to get that done. A lot of times that comes in the form of embedded recruitment services, outsourced recruitment services. Maybe it's only a part of the recruitment process, like source and screen as an example, or talent intelligence. So if you take the entirety of the TA life cycle, you can break it up into different segments. We have a solution for each of those. Some are human-led. In fact, most are. They're all tech-enabled. And this is a great example of the type of tech partnerships that we feel really strongly about, again, having them in the right places. So I always love to tell people, you might not be able to tell me, I know exactly what I need, and that's okay. I don't expect those to know what they need. They need to come to us with some sort of a problem, and then we can figure out multiple different ways to help solve that.
Great. And I'll just add, anecdotally, I have found Wilson to be certainly one of the most tech-savvy RPO organizations that's out there. And that's in no small part because of you, Alicia. So thank you very much, everybody, for taking the time to come and join us today. Alicia, where do people find out more about Wilson or a route into Wilson?
WilsonHR.com. Send me a direct message. We're on LinkedIn, and yeah, we're here. Love to chat.
Wonderful. PoetryHR.com. Up until the end of May, which is 3 days away, you're able to get a 14-day free trial, which you can sign up for on the website. From the 1st of June, Poetry is not only not going to be available for that, but it's also going to be considerably more expensive. So thanks everyone for joining, and hopefully see you all soon.
Thank you.